In this session, now I am covering closing a file. Before previous sections, we have performed an actions on how file can be opened and the task performed on the file. And now the last thing we are going a file is closing a file. Closing a file. After every successful file operation, you must always close a file. For closing a file, you have to use FClose function. This function can be used. The snippets for closing a file is given. File, file pointers, FOpen. Here first previously I am declaring a file name, that is file pointer. File, here I am opening a file and opening a file name dot text, and I am performing a W, that means writing operation. Some file operations can be performed. At last I am closing a FClose, that is a function used to close a file, and file pointer here which I have declared, same thing I am using. Example, main function fp is in a file, fp here FOpen file name dot text W, and f, that means here I am performing an operation write. After writing I am closing a file, that is FClose fp return 0. Input and output operations on files. Files input-output operations are categorized into the following types: characters input-output, integer input-output, string input-output, formatted input-output, block read-write. Here, character input-output operations. What are these things? I am explaining individually. FPutC. This function is used to write a current file position and then increment the file pointer. On success, it returns an integer representing the characters return, and on error if the returns end of file. That means here it will point to the current file position where the file is. The declaration is int fput int c file fp. Here if it is an end of file, it will give an error message, and if it is right, it will present a integer representing the characters. Now fgetC function. This function reads a character from a file and increment the file pointer position. That means it will move into a next one, that is incrementing files. On successful, it returns an integer representing the characters written, and similarly an error message is occurred if it is equal to the end of file. Similarly, as it has been declared int fgetC file star of fp. Now last, a getC and putC. The operation performed by getC and put function is same as the performed by getC and fputC functions. Only the difference here is getC and put and fput are the macros, while getC and putC are functions pointed to by the string to a file. This null character that marks the end of the string is not returned to the file. On successful, it returns a last character return and end down error of the file. That means last character it will be returned. FgetS. Here I am giving the declaration character FgetS character pointer variable integer n file star fp. This function is used to read a character from a file, and these characters are stored in a string pointed to by s. It reads n minus 1 character, that means total variable minus 1 characters from the file where n is the second argument. fp is a file pointer which points to the file from which character is read. That means where I have stopped. For example, here I am reading a character. Here if I have stopped here, point as this fp will immediately points to this current location and start reading. This function returns string pointed to by s on successful and null on EOF, that means end of the file, if it is false. Thank you.